Yeah, welcome back to this tutorial series session of the series. We are going to be looking at how to update and delete your update and delete data from the model. So without any further ado, we jump to the code. Now is the code that we have been using in the previous session, so that is what we are still going to be using. So just open your VS Code and be sure that you are still in that same folder directory. Now you see that our virtual environment is currently off, so you should now start the virtual environment. And don't forget to start your virtual environment, just go the way of source vmv slash script slash activate. So now you see that will definitely activate our virtual environment. So now to do that, now don't forget we have been doing it the hard way, but subsequently we are going to be looking at the easy way of doing it. So we go to manage.py, which is what we have looked at previously, and we open the shell. Now I told you that anytime you close the shell and you open it again, there's a need for you to start there's a need for you to import the model again. So we try and import the model again by going student management dot models. So we import students. So now we have our model imported. Now don't forget that we already have some students saved already. So we have some students saved already. So we can also get the values so that you will see them all. Object dot all dot values. So we have all the values here. Let's say you want to you want to update any of these value, like maybe okay, the name John, you want to change it to maybe Jim or anything. So what you just need to do is just use the model to update to update it. So all you just need to do is just don't forget that these results, they are all array of objects. So for the first one, the index of the first one is index 0, the index of the second one is index 1. Don't forget array is always 0 index. That means the index starts counting from 0. So we then say, let's say the student to update, we then call it student and we query it using the normal way we have been doing. Dot objects dot all, but this time around we need the index. Let's say index 0. So now the index 0, now we have the index 0 attached to students at the moment. So let's say you want to change the first name, and don't forget that the key for the first name is first underscore name. So you just go the way of student dot first underscore name and you change it to Jim or anything you want to update it to. Now anytime you update it, of course this is still happening at just like happening in the front end of the application. You need to commit it to the database by calling the save function. So you just say student.save and that will definitely commit it. So you can just confirm your change either by using the SQLite viewer, web viewer that we used the other time, or you can also use the command line to check. But let's do the two ways. But firstly, let's check it from the command line. Let's check it from the command line by saying students.object.all. Let's just get the values so that we see that the values have definitely been changed. Students dot okay, no, it should be called from student, which is the model itself, not from the instance that you attach it to. So student dot object dot all, and we go the way of values. Now you can see now that before it was John, but because of the update that we did, we have changed it to Jim. And of course you can, the way you're able to change the first name, you can also change the last name. All you just need to do is when you are updating it, the the property is of what you want to change is what you attach to is what you attach to the student. So if it's first name, if it's last name, if it's age, that is what you are going to be working with. So let's just confirm our update using the web application also. Let's just go this way and we refresh. Before it was John, as you can see, but because of the updates that we did, it has changed to Jim. Now, without too much delay, let's go to how to delete data from our record. Let's say you have added a record or a details and you want to delete it. Let's see how you can go about that. It's just very similar to the updates. So after which I'm going to be looking at how to how to delete or how to update the model itself. And the model is just like uh, the structure of your data. So now we go the way of the delete now. So let's just okay, let me just bring the shell up so that we can see it. So I don't want to close the shell. So we look at the deleting, how to delete record. So it's just very similar to the update that I've said earlier. So it's just calling a function. That is what will make it happen. So all you just need to do is just say students, and you call it with a you attach it to students dot objects, getting it from the database dot all. And let's say we need the index. Let's delete index 1 this time around. So let's say student dot delete is a function to call anytime you want to delete record from your database. Of course, all these are also needed because sometimes as you're working on your application, you might not want to be opening the user interface to do some manipulation. You just want to quickly delete something or update something or manipulate something. Just do it with this shell as it gives you faster results, and it's also improve your efficiency too in terms of how fast you are able to get things done. So once you call the student.delete, you can see that it returns the student that was deleted. So to confirm that the record that we deleted is not existing in the database again, let's just query our database again by saying student, which is the model, student.objects dot object dot all. So let's just get all the values now. So you can see now that earlier on we have two records in the database, but now because we deleted one, we now have just one record. Now we have been able to see how to update your data and how to delete your data. So of course, if you check it also using the user interface or using the SQLite viewer that we are using to check our database, you will see definitely see that what we are seeing in the command line is the same with what you are seeing with this user interface. Now you can see that the record has been reduced to just one record. Now let's see how to update our model. How do you update your model? Of course, sometimes you as you are working, maybe you are working on a student just like in our case, and as you continue building your application, you realize so there's a need to add to get the student, maybe you need the student's contact details. So and earlier on you did not plan to have it, but you have definitely defined your model, and there's a need for you to update the model in terms of okay, I need this one more model, I need this one more feed or details as part of the details I'll be getting from my user. Then you should not just start afresh again by defining a new model. You can just update the model. So now let's see how to update our model. It's just adding the details you want to add. Maybe even if it's to remove the details, you can remove it. Once you remove it, all you just need to do is just commit your changes to the database by making migration. After making the migration, it will then create the migration file for you, and after the migration file have been created, you check to confirm that okay, this is what I want to commit to my database. It's just like giving you, are you sure you want to do this, and you just confirm and be sure that okay, this is what I want to update or add to my database. And once you have seen it, once you have confirmed it, you then go ahead to migrate, and that is to say you are saving the changes or committing the changes to your database. Now let's see how to add feed, remove feed. Of course, we might not want to remove feed. Of course, it's the same thing, removing feed. So now let's see how to add feed. Let's just say, okay, we have our first name, we have our last name. Let's say you want to get the student phone number. So of course, the same way we're able to get the details previously, that's the same method we use. We just go the way of models dot, of course, a phone number. You don't expect the phone number to be an alphabet. A phone number or contact details will definitely be a number. So you should know that the model will not be a character feed, it will rather be an integer feed. Of course, if you do not define the maximum length, it will take the default 254 characters that Django will add to it. Now that we have added our phone, we have seen character feed in action, we have seen integer feed in action, we have seen email feed in action. So let's see one more feed in action, and that is the boolean feed. And boolean is just true or false, either true or false. So it's not in any way complicated. So to take the boolean feed, let's just ask if is active. Of course, you can, let's just, since you are working with a school, so let's just say is registered, which is either true or false. It's either the student is registered or not registered. So go to models dot boolean feed, and now let's look at one more type of feed, and that is the date feed. So the date feed, let's say the uh, date joined, like the registration date or the date that the student joined the coding school academy. So let's say the date joined, the date that the student joined the school. And of course, we don't expect this to be a character because it's dates, and we don't also expect it to be an integer because it's dates. So the model type that we are going to be using here is the date date feed. So now that we have updated our model, of course, the database is not aware of these changes you are making. You are just making it in the front end of your application. But now, yes, now that we have been able to update the model, so what is now the next thing to do? The next thing to do is just for you to say, okay, you should save it. After you have saved it, you then make your migration again. So even if you make any mistake while creating your model and you ended up making migrating it and adding to the database, and you feel, "Oh, this is not right," and the likes, just remove the feed that you don't want, make migration again, and commit to the database by migrating. So there's no limitation in terms of the number of migrations that you can make. You can make as many migrations as possible. So now that we have updated our model, now let's make the migration, commit it to the database by migrating. So now let's close our shell. I told you to close your shell, you just go the exist, and once you close your shell, make sure that the virtual environment is still active. So now let's just clean this our terminal. Let's clean our terminal. Let me increase this a bit. Now let's now go the way of py. Of course you can do python, but just to make things faster you can just do py manage dot py, and we then say make migrations. You should make migrations before you migrate. So once you make migrations, now notice something here, because you already have some data in the database. You already have some record in that same uh, database table that you are updating the model. Now it's now asking you two questions now, that okay, the new fields that you are creating, what should be their default value? Because the new feed will not just apply to the new record that you'll be adding, it will also apply to the existing record in the database. So now the question now is, for the existing record, what should be their default value? Should they, but is Python is giving you two options of, okay, will you provide a one-off default now? Like, okay, you want to give it a one-off default, like all the existing record in the database, just For the field that I'm adding now, for the field that I'm updating now, just give them a default value of this. Or you want to quit and manually define a default value in the model dot py. Now the best way to do it, because now if you say you want to give it a default value, you want to give it a default value, that means if let's say I say the default value is 1, that means that 1 will be applied to phone, to is registered and date joined for the two fields, which might not make too much meaning when you are going through your record. So it's just better you just quit and now go to your database and go to your model again and define the default value. So we are going to be doing that together and we'll be seeing how it works. So now let's just quit for now. We go to the second option. We are not providing a one off default now, rather we want to quit and manually define a default value for the models.py. Now to define your default value, just come back to your model file that you have created. You did not, don't forget that these are the three feeds that we are adding now. So the three feeds that we're adding now, we want to create some default value. Now to create some default value, you can just either say the feed can be none. So if the feed can be none, automatically the database will recognize that the existing file should be empty, or the existing record should be empty. But if the feed cannot be none, automatically you need to provide a default value. Now let's just make the phone number feed to be none for now. Let's make the phone number feed to be none, and also the is registered. You just say none. None is just nothing or no value. So now for the okay, I just make this is registered. Let me make date join 2 to be none. Now because automatically for the existing records in the database, let's just say they are all not registered. So that means the registration is registered will be false, and if they are registered is registered will be true. So let's set a default value of that too. So to set the default value, you just go default and you set it to false. That means all existing record in the database, we are setting their is registered feed to be false. That means they are all not registered. Now, so two ways to go, or two avenue you can use to resolve this issue we are having in terms of updating our model. And that is, the first thing is either you make the feed to be nullable. That means you make the feed to exist as nothing. That means it can be empty. Or you set a default value, and we have seen how to do the two methods. So if you want to make it to be nullable or to accept nothing as a value, you go none to be true. And if you want to set a default value, you then set default to be false. That means for the existing record, or if it end up not passing a value for this particular feed, then the value will be default, which is the false that we have set. Now that we have resolved that issue, now let's now try and come to our terminal now and commit and create our migration. So let's just create the now when you're working on the terminal, sometimes you have typed a very long command and it ended up giving you an error, or it's not going through just like we did the other time, and you want to bring back the command. All you just need to do is just press the up arrow of your keyboard to bring back the command instead of it having to type it again and again. So just press the up arrow to bring back the previous command that you run in the terminal. And even if you want to get the maybe previous two or previous three commands, all you just need to do is just press the up arrow several times and it take you to the all the previous commands that you have entered into the terminal. And if you want to bring it back again, just like you were using up arrow to take you to the previous one, to go to the next one, just press the down arrow. It will also take you to the next one. So now that we are been able to resolve our issue, let's try to make our migrations again and let's see if it will work out this time around. So now we can see that it does not give us any error, rather it is telling us that to the feed to the model student, we have been able to add feed date joined, we have been able to add is registered, and we have been able to add feed phone. Now let's confirm. Of course, I told you that when you make migration, it will create a file inside this folder migrations so that you'll be able to double check. Of course, if you are sure of what you are doing, you can just, after making migration, just migrate. But if you still want to be sure of, or if you want to give it a second look, it's better you just come to this migration folder under the application you are working on. Open it, there's a migrations folder. Open the migrations, it will tell you it will create a migration file for the model that you're updating. So you can see now that it's telling you that for the operation you're performing is you're adding, maybe okay, you mistakenly add feed model. Sorry, maybe you mistakenly add feed maybe you mistakenly have feed date joint. Oh, and you are able to give it a second look and you come and check it here and you realize, oh no, I don't want to do that. Then you just go back to your model, erase that feed, make migration again, come and check again if you want to still give it a second look. Once you are good with it, then you update it or you commit it to your database by running the migrate. Now you can see that we are adding feed date join, we are adding feed is registered, and we are adding feed phone, which is definitely what we want to achieve or the mission we want to achieve. Now that we have that, what you just need to do is now, once you are good with your migration, next thing is just for you to commit it to database. And to commit it to database, you just, instead of it to, now that you have made the migration, you then migrate. So by saying Python manage .py and you migrate. So now you see that the migration now is not as voluminous as the one we run the first time we run our migration, because the migration that comes, or the migrations that come with Django, ship with Django, automatically we have been able to migrate it to our database when we run the first time we run our Python manage.migrate. Now that is the second one. This one is just like an update. So it will just update the database. So it will not run all the previous one that we have omitted previously. So now let's confirm the changes that we have made from our database. So just refresh the database that we are refresh database. And now if you look at our feed now, of course this is student management underscore student, that's under student management application, a database table called student. Now before it was only ID, first name, last name, age and email, but now you can see that it has added feed date join, and we say that one is non-able. You can see that it's none for the existing record, and it has also added feed is registered, and we set that to false by default, which is why it is taking 0. So false is 0 while true is 1. So we also added feed phone. Phone, we said it can be non-label, that means it can be empty, and that is why it is taking this value none. Now that we have been able to update our model, so let's try and add record to the database now, factoring the new feeds that we added. So now we then go the hard way that we have been using before, and very soon you'll be seeing the easy way. But for now, let's see how things work in the background. So now to do that, let's enter our Python shell again. So do manage.py and we enter the shell. But before we enter the shell, let me just close this. Let me exist. I told you to come out from the shell, just exist. So let me clean this so that we have a clean interface or a clean terminal. So we enter our shell again. Now I told you to bring back a previous command. Just press the up arrow and it will bring back the previous command that you run in the terminal. So now that we have our shell, I told you once you close the shell, you open it again, you should import the model that you want to work with again. So now to import it, I want us to now run from student management dot models import student, no model name called student manage. meant. Okay, okay, I misspelled it. So I'll just copy. It's supposed to be a small letter S. So please always pay attention to details. Otherwise, you just see that is little things matter. So just the fact that I wrote the S as a capital letter, it's telling me the model is not saying. So that means it is case sensitive. Now that we have it imported, since it does not give us any error, that means it's working. So now let's now try and add a new record. So students, we students. So we have students. So let's now define the first name. First name. Let's set that to, since we have updated that John. We don't have John again. Let's just set this to John. The comma, last name. I'm looking at the entry here. So let me just copy it here. So I set that to, let me set this to dim something, anything depends. So I look at the next feed, which is H, and I set that to, let me set that to 20. I look at the next field, which is email. Okay, let me just type it. Email. And I set that to team@gmail.com. Now, don't forget that when you are writing number, you don't need to put it in an inverted comma. So we'll look at the next field, which is which is phone, which is phone, and phone is a number. So let's just do some random number. 07212121. So let's also see is registered. Let's set it to true now. It's a boolean is registered, and let's set that to true. And let's see date joined. Now there's something I want us to do here. I want us to see the current date in action. Like most of the time you don't, if you say you should be setting dates, automatically the time that you are setting for a particular user might be different from the previous year. So let's see how to get the current date. Like you are looking at the date that the student actually registered, so that we can avoid any form of bias of okay, I registered this date that not registered. Let's just get the current date, and Django also provide that functionality. So let's just copy, let's just cut this for now. Okay, it's not allowing us. Okay, let's just, let me just see if I can copy it. So that I don't want to, okay. If I paste it, yeah, it's copied. So don't worry, it's true and error, that means it does not do anything. So we just paste it later. But now let's see how to get the current date in Django. Now to get the current date, you just do the way you're able to import your model. You just import it from Django too, and all this in the shell. So Django.utilities, you import the time zone. You can import the time zone, and now that you have imported the time zone, you can now bring back your model again and now say date joined. Okay, sorry, I forget to put a comma here. Date joined, and so that you would not, because if you set the current time now, as I'm typing it, I said the current time. By the time I click enter, the current time will have entered the next second. So that means it is not valid. So I should just allow the system to get me the current time. So I'll just say time zone that I imported from Django, and I just say dot now. So to get the current time for me. So I press enter now. Okay, it's fine, it's fine, it's fine. So we should rather just put the phone as a see that we are getting an error reading 0 in decimal integer literals are not permitted. So it does not allow me to have a leading 0. Of course, you expect a counter details to have a leading 0. So the best solution we can just do to fix that is that we just set that instead of having it as a integer feed. Of course, we will set some validation at the front end of our application, which we are going to be seeing in action very soon. So let's just set this to character feed so that we're able to add leading zero. So of course, when you add, you just be very fast with it. Now we run the migration, we make the migrations. After making, of course, sorry, I did not save the file. Remember to save the file. So make the migrations. Maximum length attribute must divide a maximum length attribute. Okay, let's set the maximum length to, so once you get an error, read the error, you know what to do. So let's just set that to 254 and let's save. Let's make the migration again. Of course, we have our migration, so we then go ahead and migrate. Of course, I don't want to check again because I know what I'm doing and I'm also out of time. So we have been able to migrate now. So now let's now go back to our shell so that we're able to add leading zero. You see that there's always a need to update your model, maybe during the time of maybe when you're coding or when you're testing or anything. So that's why you should know how to update your model. So imagine when we're testing an application, we realize that okay, we can't add a leading zero automatically, and we know that our application will need us to get a leading zero. Then we need to come and change something so that we can make our application work exactly the way it should work. So let's do our shell again. The shell. So let's import from student management dot models. Let's import student. So now that we have imported student, let's just copy and paste the details that we typed earlier. So now let's press enter. Okay, now you don't forget that I've changed the number from integer to character, and I said when you have a character you should always put it in an inverted comma. So now what you now need to do is just move your cursor here, press enter. Okay, time zone is not defined. I told you you should import it again, and don't forget that we imported it from Django dot utis import time zone. So since I've updated this line, I'll come and copy this line. Now it's not throwing any error, that means it is working. So now, but always remember that once you define this, you should always save, so that it will be committed to the database. So I'll just call the save function. Automatically it has been committed to the database. So to check what I've added, I'll just say the model name, which is student dot object dot all, and I will then call the values. Now you can see now that instead of one record that I have earlier, and I have two records, which is now the ID2, first name John, last name Dim, based on what I added earlier. And now you have seen how to update your model. And now, just a bonus in this session, let's look at a little bit of user interface of how to display, get the data from the database and display it to the user. And to do that, what you just need to do is define a template. So that is how to delete, update, insert, and read your record, and also how to update your model in case there's a need for you to update the model. And in the concluding part of this session, we are going to be looking at how to get data from the database, display to the user in a dynamic way. Of course, you expect if you get student details page, when I log in as a student, the details I should see should be different from what you see because our details are definitely different. So that is what I mean by dynamic. So it should generate a dynamic content, a content that is unique or peculiar to you, and it's also get a content that is unique or peculiar to me. So all just with one page. So we're going to be seeing that in the concluding session of this part on that data and model.